Hello and welcome everybody. I hope you're staying cool. It is so hot here. So I'm glad you're inside enjoying a nice cup of something cold and our Play It Forward prize hop. I'll have more information on that later, but here is the project we're going to do today. Now, this is not the correct way to do ink blending. I am merely getting the ink down on the paper. I'm not using the right paper. All I'm doing is just using 80-pound Neenah. I want the lights to be able to show through. Normally you'd use Bristol and you would not be slopping this down. So that's why I'm speeding through this, because I do not want you to think that this is the correct way to blend, because it'll be totally blotchy. But I'm really excited to do this card. I'm not very mechanical. Now I'm just coming in and touching up a few places because I want it to be a night sky, but I don't want it to really be a really dark sky because the fireworks are going to be lighting it up. And by the way, all the supplies I'll have listed below and over at my blog. Now I'm misting some water from, a couple feet above, and I'm going to let it dry. It's one of the cool things about the distress inks. They react with water, so you just dry them with a paper towel in about 15 seconds. Now I'm using the Lawn Fawn stitched fireworks die to get my sky going, and I just ran those through my die cutter, and I kind of poke them up a little so you can see where they're supposed to go. And then I'm not being real exact about this because fireworks aren't real exact. I like to be a little fussy, but with this, it's kind of hard. So I just put a spot under about where they should be. And now we're going to do the Chibitronics. I'm racing through this. If you want really great instructions, please go to chibitronics.com. And I'm sorry, some of this is off camera. I have a new setup and I need to reach out a little further. But basically, I just folded a piece of paper where the battery is going to be, and I'm just going to draw a circle there so I know where to run my tape. And now the fun part's kind of wrangling this tape. It's sticky backed copper tape, and you start it off at the bottom on your circle where you're going to have your battery, and you're going to run a positive and a negative line of copper. You need to fold it back on itself and then flip it over. That's the best way to keep your connection, and you do not want to tear the tape because it has to be completely connected in order for your lights to work, for your circuit to work. So there I'm folding it back on itself and then just running it to either the one side of the light. So I remember that this is the positive line. And now I'm using my bone folder to smooth this out. You want a nice smooth connection. And then you can just tear or chop off the excess. Now I'm going to do the same with my negative line, only I'm going to run it up over the little battery cover, which again is unfortunately a little off screen, but I'm not really trying to teach you too much about the electronics. Just trying to get the whole card together for you. This is a hop, and I didn't want to spend scads of time because you have a lot of other stops to get to. However, I am going to briefly show you. Now I'm running my negative line, and you're going to run it to the inside of the line, and these little triangles with the lights, you're going to have a plus side and a negative side. And so obviously the lines need to be close enough so that it can hit both of them and peel off the backing. Finally, I get tired of it and I just whack it off, because this was an introductory kit, so there isn't just a bunch of wire, or actually tape. I was afraid I wouldn't quite have enough. So now we're just finishing it off, laying it back on itself, and then folding it over, taking it to the other side of the dot, and clipping off the excess. Now that negative, if you notice, is running on top of that envelope, little piece of paper there. That's what's going to hit the negative side of the battery. See, I'm smoothing this all out. The bone folder does a fabulous job with this. And now we're going to lay our lights. I apparently lost the video of that part of the lights, but you just kind of lay them on the line there. And you can see I wanted to move this one so it was just a little more under the firework there. So there we go. You can see how the little point is touching one side and the fat end is the other. Please forgive this. Truly, I'm not trying to teach the Chibitronics, more just how to get this card together. If you have any questions, please do ask in the comments. But I'm sure Chibitronics could do a better job. Now I'm going to do my firework stamping. I put a piece of plastic over the top because I don't want to booger this up, and I had been practicing with my stamp and I didn't want any residue to get on there. So I'm kind of positioning it where I think the center of the firework is. I do not have any idea where I got this stamp, unfortunately. See, there's some residue still on that stamp from VersaMark. So I'm glad I had my plastic there to protect it. So I'm just going to position it back in my MISTI. I would definitely use a MISTI for this. You don't want to mess it up at this point. And use your powder tool. I must insist on that, especially when you have that much ink on your paper. And I'm just going to stamp it really generously with VersaMark sticky ink. It's a clear sticky ink. Now I'm going to be embossing this with sparkle embossing powder, and that works a little differently than regular embossing powder. You need to really shake it up, and you'll have too much sparkle, and that part's not the part that really glues down. Now we're just going to go into the second one because I have changed my system, and I just really am trying to get it going. I'm using my cell phone now, thinking I'll get a better picture for you. But anyhow, I've already got the embossing powder on this. I just sprinkled the red in the middle, dumped it off, and then put the gold on the side. But we're going to go through it again here in a minute, and you don't need to see it 3 times anyway. But this time I'm not really going to ink up the whole firework because I'll have some overlapping, which is fine. Fireworks do overlap. But I wanted to show you that you really don't have to do it on the whole firework. So now I'm picking up the stamp and I'll pull out my plastic. That is a great trick because sometimes you'll think your stamp is clean and it really isn't, and then you've just messed up your project. So now I'm just going to ink up kind of the top part of this. And sparkling embossing powder also, you want to use sort of a broad, thick stamp with thick lines. It doesn't get detail very well. So and I'm kind of wiping it off so I don't have any harsh lines. And now I'm just going to stamp it over the second firework spot. So now I'm going to start off with my red embossing powder. And I'm going to kind of dump that in the center, but see, I'm shaking it really well to get some of the sticky part in there. But it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the beautiful thing about fireworks. They're organic. So I gave up because I didn't want to dump too much, so I just kind of sprinkled it with my finger. And then in order not to contaminate things, I'm dumping it right back in the container. I do tend to accidentally dump things in the wrong container, or if I leave them open, I dump the whole container. So now see, I'm getting the gold and I'm just dumping it, and I don't care if it contaminates on the card. It looks beautiful that way, I think. It's more natural than having lines. So now I'm letting my heat tool, I heat it up about 15 seconds or so, You don't want to work the papers, and my heat tool doesn't get as hot as a lot of those heat guns. Now we're going to get our third firework in place, and I couldn't decide whether to do the whole stamp or part of the stamp, but I wound up doing the whole stamp, just kind of trying to find the center of the cut part. Once again, using the plastic, because we know we've got VersaMark on that. Don't forget to put your embossing bag. Sometimes I forgot on that second one. Make sure you press it down firmly. And now we're going to, once again, add all the embossing powders. Shaking it up every time, because it settles practically instantly. Sorry about that, the gold, but I'm sure you get the idea. Once again, let my heat tool warm up for about 15 seconds. And here are some beautiful, realistic looking fireworks, but they're going to get even more realistic here in just a minute. Well, it appears my neighbor just started mowing, so please excuse that. Now I'm going to start tearing off all the release tape on my Big Mama roll of Simon Says Stamp double stick tape. Now you're going to want to double this up, actually even tripling around that battery is better. Testing my circuits, so now I'm going to be able to trim the top and bottom part of the card however I want so that it looks good. Now I'm going to let folks know where to press to get the lights to come on. I just used regular archival ink for that. And now the sentiment, you did it. I'm lining up with my Gina K ruler on some vellum and using my mat to kind of guide me. And we're just going to heat emboss this in white. The theme was red, white, and blue, and I realized I didn't have much white in there, and since I made up the rules, I felt I had to go by them. And now I'm just going to trim that down after we heat emboss it. I couldn't really decide where to put that. Didn't want to cover up the press, and I didn't want to cover up the fireworks, and I suppose planning ahead would have been a good idea, but it's not how I roll. Now I decided finally to put it on red cardstock. I went back and forth with the white, and I thought it just popped better on the red. Now I'm using some Lawn Fawn glue tube. It gives you a little wiggle room, but not very much. I realized that. It gives you more than tape, but not a whole lot more. So I just trimmed off the top. And now look at that. Fabulous. The lights are, oh, I'm just so excited. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. Here's a picture of the pink fresh giveaway pack that I have. They valued it at $125 and they sold off all in one day. You just need to go to my blog or to my Facebook page. Thanks so much for coming, and I hope you enjoyed this video and you'll consider subscribing. I hope you have a wonderful summer. I hope you'll come back and see me soon. And I'm going to include a couple of videos I think might interest you here at the end. Take care, stay cool, and bye-bye.